Hey everybody, welcome along. David here. So today we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to talk about beginner's tips with the law of attraction with Claire. So I'll let her introduce herself. We each picked three tips that we want to talk about and share, and hopefully it'll be useful for anybody that's exploring this type of thing. So quick introduction from yourself, Claire.
Hello, thank you, David, for having me. It's always great to talk about these things with you. I am a holistic coach and therapist. So I work on both sides, mainly helping people to get out of anxiety and confusion and all of that stuff into creating joy. And so this is really a massive part of my work, is the conscious creation and giving people the tools to create the life that they actually want to live. So yeah.
Cool. Very good introduction. In the wherever you find this, somewhere around this video, this podcast, whatever it will be a link to Claire's website, so you can go and explore, find out more about her. So the role of being a conscious creator, it's quite complicated, it's quite challenging, and so we thought we'd come up with thinking about, based on our many years of joint experience of exploring this, what are three tips that we would maybe kind of give ourselves if we were starting the journey again? So I think the easiest thing to do is, Claire, you just share your tips and I'll reflect something back to you about those. I'll share mine and we will go from there. So what do you think? What are your three top tips?
Such a great question, actually, because there is so much to learn. And also, even for people that have been doing it for a long time, it's just one of those things that you're constantly having to go back to the basics and learning and deepening the journey. So yeah, it's a really rich question. The easiest way in is, of course, the education. You need to kind of know a few things, that you are much more than you think you are. That kind of needs to come first, doesn't it, really? You kind of need to know what you're wanting to do and what you're actually looking for and want to create. So the easiest way to think of that is that you are an energetic being and that you are a part of all that is. And I think the first way to start doing that is to start to open yourself up to the possibility and to relax into it. And I think one of the most lovely and empowering things anyone ever told me was that when you relax, the other portions of yourself kind of take over, if you like. It just that act of relaxing allows these magical sort of parts, resources, inner wisdom, all of these lovely things to come forward. And I think that for me is just such a lovely thought. It just makes me happy just thinking about that, and is often counterintuitive to how we live, isn't it? We kind of, like, something goes wrong, or we're not sure what to do, we kind of panic. And so I think relaxation would be my first tip. The first sort of key point for me is around learning to relax and relax into who you really are and what this place is, what you think this place is. And that's for you to explore through relaxation.
Okay, cool. So the first one, so I'm going to summarize a couple of things you said, because I think they're going to be useful for people watching and or listening. So the first one I think is important is to recognize, you said that you're connected to everything. So there's nothing outside of this thing called the law of attraction. It's not as if that this is and this isn't, kind of embrace everything. So this idea of taking responsibility for everything is quite challenging, but maybe you could come at it and just say, I'm connected to everything. Nothing's external for me. And the second one is relaxing. We used a phrase, that relaxation kind of activates the magical self. That's how I would frame that. So yeah, they're great tips. What would your next one be?
And actually, in a practical thing, because I always think of a tip being something practical that people can actually do. Yep. What I would say is, if people want to have a sort of a practical tip and a go, that would be to do that every day, to spend a little bit of time as your practical tip to what we call tune in and really relax into that. Just perhaps set an alarm for 15 minutes and relax into that and just explore and see what comes up. So that would be my practical tip.
Okay. All right. So that's great. So your second tip is?
So the second thing is really about trust, because as we said, we're part of something much bigger. And that again is really exciting and empowering and just feels really lovely, because I think often we can feel like we're separate and alone and can really struggle with that sense of being really connected. And so trust is such a big one, because if we know that there's this other magical stuff going on around us and that we're a part of everything, that we're connected to everything, then the most precious and valuable tip that I can give you is to trust into that. Just trusting. It's like, it's like being sort of caught in like a safety net or a really comfortable armchair, just being able to sink into that, like, oh yes, it is all me, but it's also not all me, that I can actually trust. I feel like I'm being caught here in a really lovely way. I'm being held and I'm being supported, and that's a really lovely thing. And knowing that actually this reality is here to support us and really leans in our favor. And again, those are just really lovely thoughts to hold.
Cool. All right. So I would summarize that up as, because of, finding different ways to look at it. That, if we connected to the first one, you're connected to everything and you can trust everything. No matter what your senses say, the universe goes your way. And so, yeah, this idea of trusting yourself, trusting reality, and kind of just allowing that. And maybe that could be one of those meditation tips, contemplation tips that you mentioned, a few minutes a day, if people are feeling like they can't trust themselves or all that is, or the world, or whatever it is, maybe spend 15 minutes a day exploring the ideas of trust. So they're great. So what's your final tip for beginners?
I was going to say something slightly different actually, but you've just made me think of something else,
Okay.
which kind of leads on to the trust thing, and that's the idea of safety, isn't it? Because if you know that you can trust, then it can allow us to feel so much safer in the world. And I think that's a really important thing to add in there, because often we're not feeling safe and we're feeling scared. So I think that, yeah, having that trust and feeling safe, I'd sort of add in there, makes such a difference to us. I think thirdly, taking responsibility. And I think that can sometimes be a tricky one for people.
Yep, very much.
And
I'm writing them
how
down, which is why I'm looking at here. So I can put them in the show notes. So yeah.
and how far that goes. Yeah, I think that this work, this understanding really allows us an opportunity to really grow within ourselves. And I think often we can feel really disempowered in life, and we can kind of step into sort of victim roles without realizing it. And we all do that. We all have victim parts of us. But if we want to create the life that we want to create, then we need to find ways to become empowered. And that means for us not being a victim, not feeling sorry for ourselves. And so there's an opportunity in everything that happens, because you're creating. It's not just something that happens, like a sort of a passive thing that happens to you. Actually, you're creating, and that can be quite scary, but also it's incredibly liberating and empowering. I mean, I keep going back to that empowering word. It's, if you know that you can do something, that you create it, and not only that you create it, that you can change it, then that's, the most empowering thing that you can know and experience. So I think that taking responsibility is an opportunity. It's a beautiful opportunity, and it can feel hard, and it can be really challenging. But when we are aware that this is a feedback system, which is a really important piece of the puzzle, then these things that are happening, we can look at them in a slightly different way, which is as feedback, like, oh, okay, this isn't quite working. Oh, okay, well, what can I do about that? Rather than feeling like, oh, this is not working in my life. Oh, well, never mind, oh, nothing I can do, so it's massively overpowering, although I get that people find that really challenging because they feel like it's about blaming themselves, and I don't see it like that. I see it as a really lovely, empowering opportunity to learn more and to grow and to develop and deepen this knowledge and wisdom.
Okay. Cool. Well, they're great tips. Having been, around this stuff for a long while, I will just reflect them back to you. For the first one is relax, because our tendency is to go kind of tense up, but actually relaxation is a superpower. And actually, if you can do that, it unlocks different information, different insights, different portions of yourself that lend itself to a much more magical way of living. To trust yourself and your reality, and fundamentally trust yourself, because that's obviously, if you're not trusting yourself, then you're going to struggle in a reality that you create. Right. And finally, take maybe relaxed responsibility. I suppose the first thing I wanted to share was that there's nothing wrong with you. That's tip number one, is that there's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You can change anything that you like. You have all the potential in the world. So there's nothing wrong with you. You've never actually done anything wrong, which is a strange concept. But it's the idea that, you always did your best in whatever way, shape, or form. So that lends itself. Tip one is to accept there's nothing wrong with you and forgive yourself up to this point. From this point, when you kind of begin to think about, okay, now I'm going to create my own reality, if we're holding on to the past too much, that can really drag you back. So that's the first tip when you're first starting out. So Claire, you can reflect anything back to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely, I mean, that's so beautiful. And I think that, I think that that's something that is so core to this work and to, just everything that we experience, because so many of us come, and it's certainly been my experience, that sense of, I'm wrong, or I can't do it, or I'm, just all that kind of negative stuff. And I know certainly with my clients, it's usually like, as one client said to me the other day, I was like, well, what question can I answer for you? And they were like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And they were quite shocked when I said, there's nothing wrong with you. And they were like,
well, I know for me, it was quite a liberating point to realize there was nothing wrong with me and I'm not broken, that kind of phrase. And and that's quite an emotional thing. And also, that's part of the process. A lot of people, I think the law of attraction, conscious creation, spirituality is something out there. And actually, part of the process is it's all about you, obviously, but also to kind of try and start with a clean slate as much as you can. So people do affirmations and all those types of things whilst thinking there's something wrong with them, whilst thinking they're broken. Nothing works, and they don't think that manifesting and conscious creation, all that kind of works, but it's just they're starting off on the wrong foot. So that'd be the first one.
And I was just thinking of the practical, just adding in really just the sort of the practical tip of that is, is a kind of a constant coming back to that, right? You kind of said it there, like it was like, just start afresh and, go forward. And actually it's a constant coming back to that state of kind of giving ourselves that grace, that self-compassion, and that kindness to ourselves, which is really emotional. I feel the emotional resonance of that, as we say it, because we do need to remind ourselves frequently of that, it's such a gift to give to ourselves, and it is our natural state, that how loving and loved we are. So
exactly how accepted we are by all that is, and as you develop it more, you kind of get a sense of that. So I think that's really important for people, kind of like psychology, spiritual psychology is part of this. We need a new form of psychology where we help people come at this with a new slate, which I'm writing about as we speak. Which is kind of interesting as well. So that's the first one. Understand there is a process. Process one is forgive yourself. Try and start off with a clean skate. And as you say, just keep coming back to that whenever you're having a bad day. Look, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing going wrong here. And that's part of maybe that trust process that you were talking about as well. The second one is work in your dreams. That I find that so useful. And it's something that's changed a lot of my behaviors and experiences and inspirations and ideas. So head into your dreams. And if you can't work something out with your conscious mind, with all its limitations and all its limiting beliefs and ideas around time and space and all that kind of stuff, when you're in your dream state, you're free from the physical brain. And in fact, obviously, you as consciousness never actually sleep. So you are constantly in action and you never sleep. It's just your awareness of this reality diminishes. So go into your dreams and with intention, say, I'd like to understand this. I'd like to involve this. I'd like to explore this. And dreams is a really great way. So the first one is forgiveness. Try and do that process. The second one is work in your dreams. It's fun and interesting as well. The final one is to spend time connecting with yourself. So know, as you touched on initially, know that your identity is far broader, far deeper than the physical identity you experience. And each day, if you can, try and just explore that. You can explore in dreams, which is great fun as well, but just spend each day, because as you begin to expand your conscious awareness of who you are, everything falls into place. What doesn't fall into place is where people say, I'm wrong, I'm broken, the evil exists, I can't trust myself, I can't trust the world, but I'm spiritual, I'm going to try and change stuff. That doesn't work. It's doomed to fail. The key is when you know yourself, everything clicks into place. It's like a personal, unique jigsaw puzzle, and experiencing yourself, your true self, broader self, as well as your conscious self, is really key to the process. So they would be mine. There is a process to try and start that. The second one is work in your dreams. And the third one is take some time to connect with yourself, even if you can't verbalize what it is. Doesn't matter. You're using different senses. And I've talked about that in other podcasts and also in other videos as well. So I can connect those up wherever we are. So any feedback on those, just to round this conversation off?
Yeah, I was just thinking about when you said about the last one, because I think often we can be quite sort of cerebral and try and sort of figure things out. And I know that sometimes when I've just been sitting there tuning in, it's been like trying to find a purpose, or, sort of trying to create something. And, it was interesting that you said, actually, it's just kind of tuning into yourself at another level, because I often think of it as going beyond the mind. Like, I tell my clients, I'm going to get you out of your head. That's the way forward. And I think that's really important, actually, to say that when you are trying to connect, if you're just starting out, that actually it's just really relaxing into yourself. It is your natural state. So it's not like you have to do something or try something or even tell yourself, because it's your natural state. So it's almost just letting go of letting go of those thoughts, letting go of the need to direct. That's the mind. So actually, you don't need to do that. You can just sit there. You could even put some gentle music on, just sit there, put a timer on, maybe 15 minutes, or just, if that feels too much, then try 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes.
Yeah, because I think the first process is actually a removal of limiting ideas and a re-education of much deeper, more complex ideas, but that are your natural state. So there's nothing actually that you have to do to be immortal. You are immortal now. There's nothing you have to do to be a conscious creator. You are a conscious creator now. It's just we've got these limiting ideas. And so the first process is knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, removing those limiting ideas, and then it's kind of relaxing and allowing experience to come through. And when you do that, you can't really go too far wrong. So, okay, great. So we've got some 6 great tips. I'll just cover them one last time. We just take 2 minutes. One thing Claire said, which you're connected to everything. I'm going to add that tip in there. So tip 1 is to know you're created to everything, all events and all things. Second one is use relaxation. It's the key to magical living, and that allows you to trust. That's that one. And then finally, it's take kind of active but relaxed responsibility, thinking without getting overwhelmed. Just kind of moving into that sense of choosing to be responsible
Or
in a
beating
kind of
yourself up.
yeah, in a forgiving, I was going to say in a forgiving way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's such a
important.
process, isn't it?
Mm.
And mine are, no, there is a process, and step one is to forgive yourself, try and clear the decks of those, you know, detritus of damaging beliefs that we all have in emotions. Work in your dreams and just begin that, and also spend some time connecting with your broader self. There's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go. You are it right now, and it's all happening here for you. And the process is more of a removal than an active kind of adding on, if you like. So I think they're good tips. And hopefully, Claire will, we can have this a deeper conversation at another time. But I hope that's useful for everybody. If you're on my YouTube channel here, or if you're on the podcast, or you're on Claire's YouTube channel or podcast, whatever it would be, there'll be some links around here to connect up as well. So hope you find that useful. So thank you very much, Claire, and we'll see you on another day. That's it. That's it, everybody. If you like this, please do subscribe, hit the bell, do all that kind of stuff wherever you find this. And there's plenty more training coming along so that we can help make the world a more loving place, have more fun, and create more abundance for everybody. So that's it, guys. Have a great day. Thank you again, Claire, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.